Welcome to our Visual Florida YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you'd like to become part of our YouTube family. It's free and it's a great way to support our efforts. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, check the description. And if you like the little piece of art that we used in this project, please check out FloridaMoodGifts on Etsy. It's our new little shop. We're just getting started, and it's another great way to support our channel. Links are in the description, along with a link to a free PDF guide that details the concepts we talked about in this video. And of course, if you like this one, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It really helps too. Now, let's get started. I made this cool little graphic of a surfboard leaning up against a tree on the beach. I made it in Procreate a few days ago, and I thought I'd bring it into Apple Motion to see if I could animate it in some way. So here's what I did. Let's go ahead and open Procreate. And I made it in an 8x format originally, right here, because I plan to sublimate this onto a glass plate. If I do, I'll make a video about it. I'll open this up real quick and show you that I've got a whole ton of layers right here. Now I don't want to export all those layers because that would be a mess to try to deal with. So I duplicated the canvas, flattened each group, and you can flatten them just by tapping on it and hit flat. Okay, so after I did that in the duplicated project, I ended up with something that looked like this, and you can see I've got far fewer layers. Okay, so from there I decided that this video I was going to make would be a YouTube short, and I didn't want to have to deal with different aspect ratios, so I made a canvas that is 2160 by 3840. Now if you don't know how to make a canvas, just come up here and click New, and you can see right in bold right at the top, New Canvas. Tap that, then fill in your dimensions, and it's always helpful to give it a name. So I'll just call this one Demo, and then hit Create, and it creates the canvas and it opens it up to work on. So let me go ahead and just delete that, so I already have my project done. And then we'll just come back over here, and you can see I have a canvas that's existing that I could choose from called Demo. So that's how I got to this canvas right here. And I just imported the layers one at a time into this canvas. So now I'm almost ready to bring this over to Apple Motion. But before I do that, I want to copy it so I have a reference. I'm going to go to my wrench, and then I'm going to look at Add. I'm going to copy the canvas, and I'm going to paste it. Now, when we look at our layer stack, we see that we have an inserted image. So I'm going to drag that down underneath there. I'm going to rename it, and I'll just call it Reference. Then I'm going to go back and drop the saturation to make it black and white, like so. Now I'm not seeing it because we have our other layers turned on, but if I turn off the other layers, I can see that now I have a black and white reference. How about that? Now let's go ahead and export this. Come back over to our wrench. We'll do Share, and we're going to export that as a PSD. Just like that. We'll save it to Files. I'll put it in my iCloud folder and just hit Save. I'll replace the one that I had during my rehearsal, and I'm ready to go over to Apple Motion. Okay, we're back here in Apple Motion. We're going to go to import this project. And by the way, if you don't have this project browser, just click up here to File, New from Project Browser. All right, so let's click on here. And we're looking at our iCloud drive here under Procreate. And there is our PSD file that we exported from Procreate. We'll click that, we'll import as project, and we'll make sure that we import all layers separately. Say OK, and Apple Motion opens up with this nice little stack of our different layers that we can see right here. I went on over to Epidemic Sound, and I found this cool little 12-second jingle right here. I downloaded it, and I'm going to double click it to open it up in QuickTime. There we are. And now I'm going to do Command T so I can trim it up just a little bit right to the start of right there, I believe. Yeah, go ahead and close that. It'll ask me to save it. I'm just going to call it Trim, and I'll put it in my work folder. I've done this once before, so I'll just replace it. And now I can go to my project and see it, and it's right. Okay, next step is to put that inside of Motion. Now it's time to do some homework. Let's start by bringing in our soundtrack into the project. I'm on my other screen underneath the screen you're seeing. I'm just going to click and drag that little file and put it right up here under the project. Then I can click on Media, and I can see that it's in our project, And if I need to adjust it, I can click on audio and get our parameters for adjusting it. All right, now if I want to see it in the timeline, I can come over here and click the little speaker, and then I can see it in the timeline. And I want to put a marker at the end of the music because that's where I want the elements that we're going to animate to all come together. So we'll drag over here, right in there somewhere, maybe give it a few more beats. How about to there? Then I'm going to right click and add marker. So now we have a good ending point. And the trick is to keyframe the ending point with the values where it's supposed to end, so we always come down to everything being in the right place, and we can begin the track by manipulating all of our elements and have them animate down into the right place. I hope that makes sense. Okay, now I don't need to see that music track anymore, so I'm going to turn that off, save a little real estate. And the next thing I want to do is make sure that my timeline is, number one, at the beginning. Number two, that this little red circle here is grayed out. If that were on, like so, it would record our keyframes automatically. So if we were playing around or trying to set something up, it would record all of that, and that gets to be really confusing, at least for me. So for now, let's just keep that turned off. And by the way, if you want the project to loop, you can have this in blue. If you want to hear the audio, you can have that in blue, okay? Then if you want the project to not play all the way to the end, you can drag our play range up here, maybe a little bit more reasonable, so you don't have to wait through all that dead space until it starts over. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start to rename and reorganize our groups. So let's go ahead and click on Project, double click it, and I'm going to call it Beach Surfboard. Okay? Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select our background elements. So that would be the water and the sky. Then I'm going to hit Shift and select the sand. We'll put our reference frame in our background and then the background color. Now I'm going to right click and make those a group, and let's just name that BKG&D for background. There we go. Now I can collapse that, and I want to go ahead and inspect this background. So I'm going to click on the inspector up here. I'm going to come on over here to group, and I notice that it's in 3D. Well, we don't want it in 3D, we want it in 2D, because that background will remain static, even though we're animating the palm tree and the surfboard in 3D space. We don't want those to be flying around as well. So that's why we put that in 2D. Now for this layer, or for this group, let's go ahead and click on it, and it is in 3D, and that's fine. That's what we want. Now, this main group here, under which everything is at, we don't really need that. So let's just grab this group, our beach surfboard group, and drag it up above it, like so. And then down here, we can come all the way down to the end and just delete that. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to get our background out from underneath our beach surfboard, because remember, this one's in 3D. So we don't want to confuse anything. So let's just go ahead and get this up here, out from being in a subgroup to this group. Now our order is up backwards. We want our background at the bottom. So let's just grab our beach surfboard group and put it above it. All right, so now we have a 3D group over our 2D group, and our timeline is at the beginning. So we're making good progress. Now, the next thing we want to do is look at our anchor points. And the reason we want to look at the anchor points is because when they come in from Procreate, they're all going to be in the center of the image, and that's not good. So I'll show you why not. So let's go ahead and take the surfboard, and I'll go ahead and spin it around, and you see that it's spinning from that center point, where we may want it to spin from the center of the surfboard, or maybe even the tip of the surfboard. So that's controlled by the anchor point. So let's go ahead and set the anchor point of that surfboard now, and we can make sure we're clicked on it. Then we go to our inspector, then to properties, and then we see that we have an anchor point and our position. Now, if these aren't twirled down, just go ahead and open them up so you can see the X, Y, and Z axes, right? Now I'm going to come over here to my selection tool, and I'm going to select anchor point. And by doing that, it will move the anchor point, and it will also move our position the same amount so that the object stays at the same place in the frame. So I'm going to come up here and carefully grab it, like there, where you see it turn white. and I'm going to drag it down. And just for fun, let's go ahead and put it at the very tip of the surfboard, or pretty close to the tip of the surfboard. There we go. Now, I did a pretty good job of that because I didn't impact the Z-axis. Sometimes when you grab on the screen and use the on-screen controls, you might affect an axis that you don't want to. And we don't want to affect the Z-axis. And by the way, the Z-axis is what determines how close it is to the viewer or how far away it is from the viewer, or from the camera, I should say. And that's what the viewer sees. But now we don't have a camera added yet. But if I were to move this, you'll see that it moves it forward and backward. And you see as if it goes behind the palm tree, suddenly it's in the wrong plane. So we want to make sure that that is not moved. Let's go ahead and zero that out, okay? Now let's go ahead and set the palm tree in the same manner. So I'll click on the palm tree, and I'm going to just go ahead and unclick this checkbox here because I don't want the surfboard to be in my way. Make sure that the palm tree is clicked, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the anchor point and very carefully grab it, and let's put that at the base of the palm tree like so. So now if we move the palm tree around, we're going to be moving it around its base, just like that. And you can see if we look at the inspector that our anchor points have changed, and we did not change the Z-axis, that's good. But you see the position changed as well, the exact same values as the differential of the anchor point from center, the difference in number of pixels from center. So we're good to go on that now. We'll go ahead and turn our surfboard back on, and we'll double check to make sure we did not mess up that anchor point, and we're good. All right, this is a great time to save the project so that you have easy way to get back to this starting point, because from here on out we're going to be manipulating where these objects are, and if we add a camera, which I plan to do, we'll be manipulating our viewpoint as well. So it's easy to get lost and confused, especially if you're new to motion. So I guarantee you this is a great place to go ahead and make a starting point. So I'm going to say File, Save As, and I'll just say Beach Surfboard Starting Point. There we are. Now let's go ahead and Save As again, and let's give it the project name, which is Beach Surfboard. All right, so now we don't have any danger of writing over the starting point one. Let's make sure we're on Beach Surfboard. Here we are. Next, let's go ahead and keyframe this ending. Remember, we talked about we want everything to end up here. So let's go to that keyframe. And one way to get to the keyframe and make sure you're right on it is to do Option, Command, right arrow. And it takes us right to that keyframe. So with our inspector properties selected, let's go ahead and select our first element, which is the surfboard. And let's go ahead and keyframe that to these values. Now we don't want to keyframe the anchor point. We don't want that moving around. So I'm going to just close that, right? Maybe the opacity might come in handy at some point, so let's keyframe that. Let's do the same thing with the palm tree. Okay, so now we have a good ending point. Now, let's go back to the beginning, and let's talk about the Z-axis. Remember, the Z-axis shows how far away or how close an object is. So I want the surfboard in this little project to always be the element that's closest to us. So I'm going to just type in a positive value of 500 here. Now you see it came up and it's closest to us, but at the end here, it goes back to 0. Well, I may not want it to go back to 0. I may want it to stay at 500. And this is for two reasons. One is it gives us a little more control, but another is to show you why we saved that reference frame when we were in Procreate. So I'm going to go ahead and put it at 500 here as well. Okay, so when the project ends, the surfboard is not in the right position, but I don't know where to put it. So I can come down here to my background, and I can turn off my water, sky, and sand, and that leaves me with my reference, which I can easily see since I made it in black and white. And then I can just come back over here, making sure my surfboard is selected, making sure I'm at the end. Let's just go ahead and adjust our Y position to bring it up like that, and then our scale, make it a little bit smaller. And we may have to play with this just a little bit, but you get the idea. All right, and maybe our X a little bit, bring it over I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, but the closer the better. Okay, that way we know that at the end of the project, it's going to be where it belongs. Now, let's do the same thing with the palm tree while we're at it. I want the palm tree to be a little bit below sea level, as it were, with sea level being 0. And I'm going to take its Z position and I'm going to make it negative. So I'm going to come back like so. Well, I'm seeing it, but the surfboard's kind of covering it up. So let's go ahead and turn the surfboard off. All right. So I'm going to put a negative 500 in here, like so. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll come up here and we'll adjust our Y position up a little bit, actually down a little bit to get down there to the bottom of the trunk down there. It's kind of hiding. And then we'll move it over just a little bit. And then let's go ahead and scale it down or scale it up just like that. Okay, so when we scoot this back here, we're all good. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and keyframe everything for the palm tree, just like we did at the end. Remember, we don't want to mess with the anchor point. And you'll notice that this is on orientation and not rotation. Let's go ahead and put it back to rotation. I left it there during my rehearsal and forgot to put it back. So it should be on rotation to start with, okay? All right, that's all looking good. Let's go back to our surfboard here, turn it on, and then keyframe anything that wasn't keyframed earlier. Okay, and then let's go to our background and turn off our reference and turn on our sand and our water and sky. All right, and then we can close this background down. All right, I'm going to just play it all through to make sure nothing jiggles around. Fantastic. Now, if you don't want it to loop, remember, just come up here and turn off the loop. And if you want it to play only a section, you can adjust the play range to play any section you want. So if you want to just kind of focus in on one little area, you can do that. We're at last done with our housekeeping. Now it's time to have a little fun. Let's start out by adding a camera. We'll go up here to Add Object, Camera, and just to make sure that it ends up like everything else in this project where it comes together at the end, we want to go ahead and keyframe the actual camera attributes, not the camera itself, which is what we're seeing in this tab, but the camera properties. And this is its position in space and its rotation in space and its scale, etc. So let's go ahead and keyframe those just like we did with our objects, not keyframing the anchor point, okay? Now we can come back to the beginning and I'm going to just put a parameter in here in the interest of time. I'm going to tilt back 50 degrees in the x-axis, okay? Now, if we want to see where our camera is, we can always come up here and look at the perspective view, and that shows us our camera plane right there, and our actual camera is down at the bottom. So if I were to bring this back, you can see the camera is going to come back straight into plane, and right there, we're level with the horizon and right in the center of the shot at 0 right there. But let's go ahead and dial in 50. It's a good starting place. And come back here to look at the active camera, which is what we'll share when we share the project, all right? So if we scroll through, we'll see that the camera is moving, giving our view of those objects in our project the right ending point as the camera is now looking straight ahead right there. All right, we'll go back to active camera view. Now, we can have a lot of fun playing with these objects and waste a lot of time, but for now, for the purpose of showing you how you can just animate layers that you brought in from Procreate, I'll just put in some numbers here to give you an idea. We'll go ahead and leave our X position alone on our surfboard at the beginning of the timeline. We'll put 175 in for Y, and we'll bring it closer to us in Z space with 1500, okay? And if our camera was off, that's what it looked like. You can see it brought us closer in Z space, okay? Turn the camera back on. Then let's go ahead and go to our palm tree. And for those numbers, I'm going to put in minus 400. Oops, didn't take it. Minus 400, minus 1500. And we'll bring the tree forward by making it 1300. It's way forward. Okay, we'll leave everything else alone. By the way, those numbers that we wrote over were the original numbers that the program put in as offsets when we moved our anchor point for those items. So that's what those original numbers were. Now, I didn't have my playhead at the beginning, so we'll see the camera move by itself, and then we'll see the object start to move. Well, that's not exactly what I wanted. I want everything to move together. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the palm tree right there, and I'm going to bring it up so that my surfboard and palm tree both start at the beginning and everything moves in unison. We'll go ahead and play it through. So now it's time to share. If you were going to share this back over to Final Cut, you may want to do it with ProRes 444 with Alpha if you had any transparencies back here, so you have a high quality file to work with in Final Cut. But in our case, we're just going to export for social media. So I'm going to click Export File, and I'm going to click Settings to see where we're at just to make sure. H.264 is fine. Our resolution is 2160 by 3840, which is vertical 4K. Our color space is 709, which is the most common one, most compatible one. Our color channel, our audio format, entire project. This looks good, and it'll open in the QuickTime player. So we'll hit Next, and then we just choose where we want to put it. I'm going to overwrite my previous one, and then we can see our export progress right here. Okay, so here's our finished product. Please check the description for that PDF link and for ways you can help support our channel. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one, and bye for now.